Namaste, friends. How are you? Good to see you. I can't see you, but I know you're there. Excellent. So wherever you're at, I hope you're comfortable. This is beginner yoga, so I'm assuming you're a beginner if you're taking this yoga. If you're not a beginner, go check out Chris Temple Yoga on YouTube. There's plenty of things there. Or we're streaming live classes at Sonic Yoga that are not beginner level either. So you can do that there. Thank you everybody for coming. Christy Kohler, thank you so much for coming. I hope you enjoy this. Couple things I want to say about beginner yoga, because I used to teach beginner yoga at Sonic. Beginner yoga doesn't mean that this is going to be easy. And if that's not a happy thing for you, I apologize. But even though it's going to be challenging, that doesn't mean it's wrong. A lot of us, we either want to be able to do something and then we continue doing it, or we can't do it so we don't do it at all. A lot of this is about doing it to the level that you can do it at, rather than you looking at what I'm doing and be like, well, I can't do that. It's really about making the body work for you to the best of your ability and for you to use your body as efficiently as possible. One of the things that I always like to say about yoga is I'm not here trying to get you into a pose as much as I'm here to try to get you into you, to embody yourself with as much ease, grace, and efficiency as possible. So, to get us started, you can come onto hands and knees. Now, I have a mat here. You may not have a mat at home. Carpet is good. Blanket is okay. Blanket's going to be a little tricky because you don't want something to slide underneath you. But just basically, if you have something that's soft that isn't going to move underneath you, that's going to be the best. Now, for starters, I'm going to take my knees as wide as the mat. And again, if you need to stick some extra padding up underneath your knees, you can. Then I'm bringing my big toes to touch behind me. So I've got my big toes touching my knees as wide as the mat. And then I'm going to sit back on my heels. For me, I'm going to come onto my elbows, and then you can lower your forehead to the ground. So this is child's pose. Again, just reviewing, knees are as wide as the mat, big toes are touching. I'm trying to sit back towards my heels, and my butt may not touch my heels, and that doesn't matter. My butt actually doesn't touch my heels. And then my forehead is resting against the ground. And then I'm just going to give the head a little rock side to side and massage that out. And then I'll tell you a little something about this pose. It's called child's pose. And if you were to today just come into this pose for about 20 breaths, this would be highly beneficial towards you. At any time in your yoga practice, whether it be today or some other time, if you ever feel like, oh my God, this is a lot, you can always come into child's pose. But do know that your mind is going to give up way before your body actually needs to. So from child's pose, let's come back up on the hands and knees. But before you actually do, I want you to think, how can I get onto my hands and knees with as much ease and grace as possible? I'm going to start to push into the hands, placing one hand directly underneath my shoulder. Place the other hand directly underneath my shoulder, lifting up, placing a knee underneath the hip. Same thing on the other side, knee underneath the hip. Here I am in my tabletop. So my hands are on the ground, which I'm sure you know that. But what I want to say is how I use my hands is important. What we tend to do is just collapse into my wrist. I collapse into my wrists, and I kind of like lock into the elbows, and then I'll drop here. Maybe not this grotesquely. Maybe I'm slightly lifted. But we don't ever want to just collapse into a joint. So as I use my hands on the mat, I'm pressing into fingerprints. This left hand is just fingerprints on the ground for the moment. Then I'm going to lower onto my knuckle pads. My fingers are spread out pretty wide, and they're slightly dialed out. So middle finger can either dial to the front of the mat or slightly wide. But I'm pressing into my fingerprints, I'm pressing into my knuckle pads, and then yes, the heels of my wrists are on the ground, but I'm not just collapsing into that. I'm staying very engaged into my fingerprints and knuckle pads so I don't collapse into my wrist. An exercise that I like to do is I come onto my fingerprints and just come into my tabletop like that. Then I lower on as far as the knuckle pads, and then that's as far as I go. Eventually, I'll put the heels of my wrists on the mat, but I'm not collapsing into them. I'm going to spin my elbows back towards my thighs. So if I do the other thing, sometimes that's good information. If I point my elbows out to my side, I kind of look like a bulldog here. That is not what I want. I want the elbows to spin back towards my kneecaps. And then I'm looking to push away from the ground so I spread out the upper back, yeah? And here I am in my tabletop. My knees are below my hips, and I'll give you a profile here. I want my feet, the shins, to parallel the outer edges of my mat. So in child's pose, I was knees wide, big toes touch. In this tabletop, my shins are, again, parallel with the length of the mat. So we start out with what we call flexion and extension of the spine, although not in that order if you practice with me. The first thing I do, and again, I'm keeping my hands active. I'm not just locking out here. That's lazy. That's why we get ourselves into trouble in the first place. From here, I'm going to drop my belly. Start to look forward and maybe slightly up, but don't wrinkle your forehead and don't crank the back of the neck. So we call this cow spine. So you've got your cow, you got your udders. You're basically creating a hammock from the shoulders to the tailbone and letting your body hang out in that hammock. Great. So what I'm really doing here is I'm contracting all the muscles from my tailbone to I would say the bottom of my neck for certain. So I'm trying to squeeze my tailbone towards the back of my neck, and I'm trying to bring the back of my neck towards my tailbone. In other words, contracting all the muscles of the back. Now, if I'm going to take the other pose here, I'm going to push away from the ground and look towards my belly. Again, I'll show you my profile. I'm rounding my back like a cat. I'm looking back towards my belly button, and I'm pushing away from the ground to keep my arms basically unchanged as I breathe into the backside body. Now on this side of the pose, I'm contracting all the muscles basically from my throat to my pubic bone. Yeah, so we're going to move back and forth between those two poses. If this is too much for you, you can always take a moment and just shake out your hands, because oddly enough, we're not on our hands a long periods of the day. So suffice to say, your wrist might get a little tired from this. Activate fingerprints and knuckles into the mat. Spin your elbows back. On your inhale, drop your belly, look forward and up. Find the cow spine. Really take the time to see how much contraction you can feel in the backside body. And then exhale to round into the spine, looking back towards your belly button. And really spread the shoulder blades apart. Feel the ribs hugging in. Now inhale, drop the belly, look forward and up. And then exhale, round into the spine, looking back towards your navel. Let's take that 5 times. Slow inhale. Long exhale. Slow inhale, don't let the elbows bend. Long exhale. Inhale 3. Don't lose the energy in the hands. Inhale 4. Exhale back. Inhale 5. Exhale back. If you need to pause, you can curl the toes at the back of your mat and sit back on your shins. If you need to slide a block underneath your butt, you can do that. Just take a second, roll out your wrists. And now we're going to add on to that whole thing that we just did. So I'm making fists and making circles to rotate out the wrists. Bring my hands back up underneath my shoulders. Here I am on my tabletop. I'll run through all the points. Fingerprints pressing into the ground. Knuckles pressing into the ground. Elbows spinning back towards my knees. Yeah? And then I keep that space behind the shoulder blades. We'll start off with one leg back. So extend your left leg back. Keep the toes on the ground. Rock forward and back. So I'm stretching out my calf and my hamstring when I push back. And then coming forward. From there, floating your left leg up off of the ground and taking a moment here. You're going to bend the knee and imagine that you're putting a footprint on the ceiling behind you. So you don't want the knee to point off to the side. You want it to point straight down. Find your cow spine here. Inhale, drop the belly, look forward and up. Exhale, find the cat and bring that knee towards your forehead. Really squeezing out all the air and squeezing the knee towards your forehead. Inhale, sweep the leg back, belly drops, find the cow spine, flex through the heel. Exhale, draw the knee in, push the ground away from you, try to dome the upper back. Inhale, sweep the leg back. And then exhale, squeeze it in. Inhale, extend the leg back. So I'm going to bring that leg over towards the right side of the mat. Yeah, the leg stays long. I take it over to the right side of the mat and drop the toes. Now I'm going to look over my right shoulder and try to see the foot back behind me. I can do it. I want to make sure I'm not losing that energy in my hands or my arms. And now I'm feeling a stretch by my left hip as I look back towards those toes behind me. Breathe here. Exhale. See if you can really send the breath into the left hip. Right into the QL lower back, all those muscles that connect on the left side. And then go ahead and put your knee back where you found it. Sit back on your shins and give the wrists a rotation. Yeah. Then we'll take the other side of that. So, hands back onto the earth. Fingerprints, knuckle pads, elbows spinning back. Cow spine, right leg floats back first. Toes tuck. And give yourself a little rock forward and back. Again, this is opening up the back of the leg. You might sit with that. And then, bend that right knee. Put a footprint on the ceiling behind you. You can kind of peek out of the corner of your right eye just to make sure you're not doggy fire hydranting your leg off to the side. Cow spine, inhale, belly drops. Exhale, round in. Try to tap it. Inhale. Don't lose the hands. Don't lose the elbows. Exhale, squeezing it in. Inhale, cow spine. Look forward and up. Don't wrinkle the forehead. Exhale, squeeze knee in towards your forehead. Send the leg up. Straighten the leg out. Send that right leg over to the left side of the mat. And then you start to peek over your left shoulder without losing the hands or the arms. Now I'm starting to feel a stretch in my right hip, and that is very good. I breathe into that stretch. 2. I'm kind of sending my right hip to the right to add to that stretch. Excellent. Fix your legs, put them back where you found them. Sit back on your shins and then just rotate out your wrists. Yeah. I call these yes and no hands. These are my yes hands. It's a good way to, careful, don't go too crazy on me. Your hands, it's like they're saying yes, and then you shake them off to the side. It's like they're saying no. It's a wonderful way to release the wrists a little bit. All right, here we go. Last thing we're going to do on our hands and knees. So again, if you're like, man, this yoga, my wrists are killing me, my shoulders hurt, welcome to life, right? We work with it. We do what we can. So, same setup, yeah? I won't say it again. From here, I'm going to try to keep as neutrally in the middle as all I can. I'm going to have a tendency to sweep off to one side. I don't want to have that tendency. I want to stay right in the middle. But I am going to reach my left wing out to the side. And then I'm going to try to reach that arm up, making sure that nothing else has changed. It'll change a little bit, but not too much. Now I'm going to look to the left and look up towards that left thumb in the ceiling. Have you started hunching your right shoulder to the ear? Can you breathe across the chest here? With your exhale, thread that arm underneath your body, and then you're going to lower your left ear and left shoulder to the ground. From there, you can crawl the right hand out in front of you. Now, I think the hardest thing for people to do in this pose, 2 things are trouble spots. One is they hold themselves up, and I don't want you to hold yourself up at all. Try to relax the face, the shoulder, the jaw, all into the mat. Then the other thing that people tend to do, and you don't need to look back, but just notice where your legs are in space. Where do they feel like they are? If you feel like one of your feet has swept over towards the other foot, can you bring it so that your shins are just as parallel to the mat as they were before? My head is completely relaxed on the ground. That's what I want you to do here. And I'm breathing into a little bit of a twist, so the left hand, which is across my body and underneath, I can push that hand into the ground to get a little deeper of a twist. Okay, then slowly take that right hand back underneath your shoulder. I want you to not only get the left arm out from underneath you, but take the time to really reach it up, but not forcefully so. Can you relax the shoulders? Can you relax the chest? Can you relax the neck? Maybe halfway close your eyes and breathe into that same stretch. And then lower that hand to the earth. Taking the other side, right arm reaches to the side. Let's start with that. And then keeping neutral in the rest of the body, I reach my right fingertips directly up towards the ceiling as best as I can. Then I'll look right and I'll try to look up towards that top hand. And I'm not letting that knock down my foundation. I'm keeping my hips even so I can always look. Yeah, I was leaning a little too far right. I don't want to lean too far right. And then I breathe and reach. With the exhale, I'm going to take that arm underneath my body. Try not to let it touch the ground until you're ready to lower down that ear, shoulder to the mat. You can crawl your left hand out in front of you, and then you're peeking underneath your bicep, tricep, your armpit maybe. Now try to relax the face. If you started drooling right now, that would be like the best, because that would mean that you were totally relaxed. Did your right foot sweep in? Is it touching your left foot? Can you bring your shins to parallel the long edges of your mat? Take one more breath. And then take that left hand back up underneath your shoulders. Pull the belly in. Try to come up with ease and grace. Pushing into the left hand, reaching my right arm to the ceiling, feeling that same beautiful stretch across the chest, halfway closing my eyes to make sure that I'm not stressing anywhere that I don't need to stress. And then release that hand down once again. This time let's come back into that child's pose. Knees go wide, big toes touch, sit back on your heels, walk your hands forward, forehead to the earth. Take 2 more breaths here. If you want to rock your forehead side to side, do so. Notice if there's any tension in your shoulders, in your jaw. And then let's come on to hands and knees. All right, we're going to do one more thing. I lied. I want you to try this, though, because I think this is super amazing. This is really, really challenging for your core. All right, have fun with this. You are going to, in hands and knees, curl your toes and lift your knees only an inch off the ground. Let's go for 3. Lift the knees. 2, hands are the same as they've always been. Elbows are dialing back. And then lower your knees to the ground. All right, on your next inhale, lift both knees off the ground and take your left foot just barely off the ground for 3, 2, 1. Lower the toe, lower the knees, take a pause. And then let's take the other side of that. So hands and knees, knees an inch off the ground, right foot just about an inch off the ground. 3, 2, 1. Lower down. Okay, here's where things are going to get more interesting. So lift your knees. Lift the left foot up off the ground, just barely off the ground. Take your right hand to your heart. So right now I'm only have my left hand and my right toes on the mat. If you've lifted your right knee way off the ground, bring it back in. 2, 1. Feet down, hands down, knees down. Take a second. We got one more side. This is super challenging. So hands and knees, curl the toes, lift the knees. Right foot barely off the ground, left hand to the heart. Breathe here. 3, 2, and 1. Hand down, knees down. Sit back on your shins. Super challenging. Okay. All right, that's it. We're done with all that stuff. Let's come on to hands and knees. From there, I want you to lift your knees up off the ground and then walk your hands back until you're in a forward fold. You can bend your knees a super duper lot. That's great. From there, bring your chin into the chest and roll up nice and slowly to stand. All right, let's test our balance. We were already balancing just a little while ago. Feet are hips width apart. My feet are basically parallel to the outer edges of the mat. And it's not the outer or inner blade. It's actually right through the center of the foot. Okay, so here I am standing up nice and tall. I want you to just rock the weight into your left foot and lift your right foot up off of the ground. Yeah. Notice that balance is constant movement. You never get to stop with balance. You're moving the whole time. The better we get at it, the less it looks like movement. Now putting your right foot on the ground, rock the weight over to the right, lift that left foot up off of the ground. And then pause here. Great. Put both feet on the ground. Let's just rock the weight a little bit into your tiptoes, so I've got my heels lifted up off the ground. And then bending my knees, rock the weight back into your heels, just take all 10 toes up off of the ground. Yeah, and then do that a couple times. Rocking in the tippy toes, I could actually go way up high if I wanted to, right? Or I could rock way back and lift even more of my feet up off the ground. And if you lose your balance, cool. That's what we're doing. We're saying, hey, what can we balance with? So rocking forward into the toes, rocking back into the heels. Awesome. Notice how I can rock to the outer blades of my feet. Be careful with your knees and your ankles here. I'm doing it a lot so you can see what I'm doing, but I'm rocking my weight into the pinky sides of my feet. I can do the other side of that too. I can rock the weight into the big toes, bringing my knees closer together. The pinky edges of my feet come off the ground. When I am standing, when I'm balancing, I'm doing all of those things a lot. I just become better at it. We all are pretty good at it because we can walk and stand and talk to a friend and you're not like having a conversation moving all around the place. But as we're about to move here, we want to make sure that we're understanding that balance, one, is a constant movement, and two, that you need these micro messages in order to balance, and then we'll just become more efficiently at them. So bend your knees, right? Sit down a little bit. Turn your palms to face up. We're going to lift the right leg up off of the ground. Take about a foot step forward, and then you can push your palms down as you bring the weight into that right foot. Switching sides, take the left foot up. It's like the hands are sweeping the leg up like a marionette puppet. And then put the hands down and step that foot forward. One more time on the right. Lift it up. Step that foot forward. One more time on the left. Lift it up. Step that foot forward. Bring your feet about hips width apart. On your inhale, take your arms up and over your head. When we reach the arms up, the shoulders tend to hunch up to the ears. If they hunch up, just keep the arms wider until you can keep them down and bring them in. The other tendency is for you to stick out your rib cage here to get the arms go up. Try to hug the ribs into the body so you're lengthening through the middle rather than overextending through the front of your body. Look up, breathe in. Exhale, you can bend the knees as you dive down into a forward fold. Yeah? If you've got a little loving in the middle, you can always widen your feet out more to allow for your belly, right? And then just let the head drop, bring the chin to the chest. So you're just hanging here. Notice where the weight is on your feet even now, though. Is it rocked way back into the heels, into the toes, into the inside or outside of your feet? What can you do to bring it even in all those pieces, right? Then go ahead and put your hands on your shins. Lift yourself up halfway. Imagine like someone is setting up a dining room table set on your back. So they're putting the tablecloth on your back right now. They got the silverware, plates, no big deal. Then they start to stick the glasses, the wine glasses on your back. You don't want them to fall. So what you're trying to do is bring your back as flat to the earth as you can, flat to the ground underneath you. And then you're getting as long as you can by rooting your tailbone back and really lengthening the front of your head forward. All right, just forward fold over your legs. And then on your next breath in, come on up nice and slowly, assembling your spine one vertebra at a time. When you get to the top, give the shoulders a shrug. Make sure there's no tension there. And then on your inhale, take your arms up and over your head in the same fashion. Notice if you're hunching your shoulders up. Notice if you're sticking your ribs out. Can you firm your thighs? Your thighs are down here. You want them to feel strong like trees rooting into the ground. Go ahead and bend the knees and again, forward fold over your legs. Your feet should be where they were a moment ago, so not too much adjustment there. Now, when you forward fold, we have this tendency to collapse into the pinky edges of the feet. Make sure you stay rooted into your big toe mount, which is this nubbin behind the big toe. Bring your hands on your shins. Someone's trying to set up a dining room set on your back, so let them do that for a second. They're really quick, so we'll only be here for a moment. And then exhale again, just forward fold over the legs. Chin to the chest, roll up one vertebra at a time. That means one backbone at a time to stand. And then when you get to the top, take your arms up and over your head. Keep the ribs in, keep the shoulders down. Exhale, bend the knees and forward fold over your legs. Bring your hands to your shins, halfway lengthen up, same deal. My knees can stay bent so I get my spine as long and flat as I can. All right, next time you exhale, put your hands on the ground and step back to plank pose. Plank pose, you're like, oh my God, yoga is so hard. If you want to, you can lower down onto your knees. You could do that, but maybe you stay in plank pose. Push into the ground. Remember the energy in your hands. So a lot of times when we're on hands and knees like you were before, you're like, what's the big deal? I don't get it. And then you get in a plank pose and you're like, oh my God, I'm so screwed. My hands they feel like they're in pain. But if I press into the fingerprints and I drive through the knuckles and I keep the wrists of the heels of my wrists light, then I'm not going to experience that pain. I'm going to spin my elbow points back towards my thighs. I'm breathing here. Excellent. With your next exhale, lower your knees down and take a child's pose. They can go wide, and you sit back on your heels, and your forehead touches the ground. All right, this is surprisingly hard. On your next breath in, I want you to slide forward like you're going to come on a hands and knees, but you stay low to the ground. Yeah, when you get to the front of the mat, just lengthen out your legs behind you so you don't fall off the mat. And then take your hands underneath your shoulders. Yeah, squeeze the elbows into your sides and lengthen through the back of the neck. Feel all 10 tops of the toes pushing into the ground. Because when we do this next thing, most of us tend to be a tight ass. We start locking out our butt. No need for that. On your inhale, lift yourself away from the ground. Now we're only going into baby cobra here. So if you want to test how strong your back is, take your hands barely off of the ground. Then you can put them back, but try not to use your hands as much as you're using your back to hold this up, the muscles of your back. Exhale, release the forehead down. Inhale, lift up again. Maybe you go a little higher, and the hands can help, but don't lose the strength in the back. Pull your belly into the spine and breathe into the upper back. Exhale, release back down. Forehead touches to the mat. Reset up your feet. I started collapsing into the big toe sides of my feet. I want to push into the pinky toe sides of my feet. Inhale, lift up, lengthen up. You can go as high as you'd like to here. The arms are definitely helping me at this point, but I haven't lost the strength of my back, strength of my belly pulling in. Okay, lower down. Push back to child's pose. So I push up on the hands and knees, widen my knees out. Big toes touch hips back on the heels, forehead to the ground. Then with my next breath in, I'm going to come on to hands and knees. I'm going to curl my toes under. I'm going to lift my hips back. I'm going to start to walk my hands back towards my feet at the back of the mat. Nice. Find your ragdoll forward fold. Notice if you're collapsing into the pinky edges of your feet. I'm watching you. Keep the weight evenly spread out. Come on up nice and slowly to stand at the back of your mat. And then we're going to do our magic walk again. This time, let's start with your left foot. So as my hands sweep up, I move my weight into the right foot. And I'm going to let my left foot lift up. I'm flexing through the ankle. I put that foot down. I turn my hands down and I bring the weight into my left foot. Inhale, right foot lifts. I take it up like a marionette. Exhale, I put it back down. One more time apiece. Inhale, left leg lifts. Take your time. You're not in a rush. Try to put that foot down as slowly as you can. I mean, don't be ridiculous. I only got you for 45 minutes. Inhale, right leg up. Exhale, feet together. Come to stand at the front of the mat. All right, there's our sequence. We're going to do that whole thing one more time. It is going to move a little faster, and I'm not going to take as many pauses. So do your best to keep up. If you're like, this is too easy, then again, go check out some of my other videos on YouTube. You definitely will get your workout in. But actually, the simple stuff is often as challenging as the difficult stuff. It's just challenging in a different way. All right, inhale, take your arms up and over your head. Keep the ribs in, keep the shoulders down. You can bend the knees as you dive down, forward fold over your legs. Full release out. I want to add in one thing here. We'll take our halfway lift, dining room set up on the back. Exhale, forward fold. Now I want you to take your dining room set up on your back, just like you did a second ago. And then reach your hands back by your sides like your airplane, but keep your spine as long as you can. Now come all the way up to stand through that long spine. We're not rolling up one vertebra at a time. We're basically folding out like a big hinge of two boards. Good. Now take your arms up and over your head. Exhale, bend the knees as you dive down, forward fold over your legs. Cool. Take a halfway lift. Again, this is to remind us of how we want to lift up. We're lifting up through this half flat back. And then exhale, release it back down. Now, take a halfway lift and try to reach your arms forward. And then come all the way up to stand like that. Nice. Hands down by your sides. Okay, there we go. Inhale, arms up. Exhale, dive it down. Forward fold. Take a halfway lift, lengthen through. Exhale, hands to the ground. We're going to step back to plank pose. That's it. Now, don't collapse into the body. Try to push away from the ground. When I'm in plank pose, I think of the ugliest person I can think of that's underneath me, and they're puckering their lips like they want to kiss me. And I'm like, oh, get away from me. So I'm pushing as far away from the mat as I can, trying to make sure that I don't have to lock lips with that blessed, daughter of God. Take a breath in. Exhale, lower your knees down, push back to child's pose. Tap your forehead to the earth. And then on your next breath in, it's like you're coming on hands and knees, but you stay low to the mat. Like you're crawling underneath some barbed wire. Why you would be doing that, I haven't a clue. Good. So, forehead to the ground, legs are long out behind you, hands underneath your shoulders. On your inhale, we're just going to take one lift, and you lift as high as you can as long as your pelvis stays on the ground. Don't cause your lower back pain. And if your lower back hurts, usually pulling the belly in tighter will relieve that pain from the lower back, at least to a certain degree. Exhale, forehead to the earth. We're coming through our child's pose, so you can come on hands and knees. Widen out your knees, sit back on your heels. Nice. From there, come on hands and knees. Inhale. Curl the toes, lift the hips back. Start to walk your hands back towards your feet at the back of the mat. All right, we will roll up slowly here, chin to the chest. You're coming up like a Neanderthal or a zombie. Nice. And then from there, bring the weight into the left foot. Right foot lifts like a marionette. Palms turn up. Step it down slowly. Right foot forward. Left foot lifts. Moving through the elements, through the air. Put that foot back down. Right foot lifts up. Put it down. Left foot lifts up. Come to standing at the front of your mat up tall. Inhale, take the arms up and over your head. Exhale, dive it down, forward fold. Inhale, halfway lift, lengthen through. Just the forward fold. Inhale, halfway lift, lengthen through. Reach your hands forward, palms face one another. Come all the way back up to stand. And then dive it right back down into your forward fold. Inhale, halfway lengthen up. Exhale, hands to the mat. Stepping back to plank. Plank pose, 5. Push away from the ground. Press into the fingerprints, 4. Keep your thighs firm, 3. Keep kicking back through your heels, 2. Breath is smooth and easy, 1. Nice. Knees down, child's pose. Sit back on your heels. Then slither forward onto your belly. Come right into Cobra Pose. Bring the legs together. Peel the chest away from the mat. And then exhale. Push it back to child's pose. Nice. From there, curl the toes. Lift the hips back. Walk your hands towards your feet at the back of the mat. Feet are parallel. Take a Neanderthal, roll up to stand. Nice. All the way to the top, move the weight into the right foot. Left foot lifts up, palms turn up. Step the foot down, palms face down, other side. Right foot comes up, I'm in no rush. I'm like with the stall, and then I put it down. Lift it up one more time. Left foot plants. Lift it up one more time. Right foot plants, feet hips width apart, stand up tall, inhale, arms up. Exhale, dive down, knees can bend. Inhale, halfway lengthen. Let's go right to it. Halfway lengthen. Reach your hands forward and then come all the way up to stand. Nice. Dive it right back down, forward fold, all the way down. Take a halfway lift up, lengthen through. Hands to the earth. We'll step back to our plank pose. Breathing here. Exhale, lower all the way down directly onto your belly. Try to go slow. It's too easy to collapse. Inhale, peeling up into that Cobra Pose. This time we're going to curl the toes and lift your hips back. Walk your hands towards your feet at the back of the mat. Take your time. Come up slowly to stand, chin to the chest. Nice. Rock the shoulders down the back. Let's move the weight into the left foot. Right foot lifts. Walk of fire. Step it forward. Inhale, left foot lifts. Place it down. One more time apiece. Right foot comes up. What's up? Freaky, freaky, freaky. Right foot down. Lift it up. Left foot down. Arms up. Reach high. Dive it down. Forward fold. Inhale, lengthen up. Lift through. Reach your hands forward. Palms face. Come all the way up to stand. Look up. Dive it down. Forward fold. Inhale, lengthen again. Exhale, hands to the earth, stepping back, plank pose. Take a breath in, plank pose. Take your time. We're going to lower all the way down to the mat. On your inhale, come into your Cobra Pose. You try to back the shoulders behind the wrists. Notice if your shoulders look like earrings right now. We do not want them to look that way. You're going to try to curl your toes, lift your knees, and then start to walk your hands to the back of the mat into your forward fold. Chin to the chest, come up nice and slowly, like a zombie rising from the dead. Bring the weight into the right foot, left foot floats up, walk of fire. Hands down, foot down, take your time. Other side, breathe it up, right foot lifts. Exhale, put it down nice and slowly. Inhale, left foot lifts up. Exhale, plant it down one more time. Breathe in, right foot lifts. Good, come to standing. Inhale, take the arms up and over your head. Exhale, dive it down, forward fold. Inhale, halfway lift. Reach the hands forward, catch a ball over your head. Come all the way up to stand. And then dive it right back down, forward fold. Inhale, halfway lengthen up. Hands to the mat, step back to plank pose. Take a breath in. Exhale, lower in one piece all the way down to the ground. Don't thump, try to fight for it at the bottom. Inhale, lifting up into your Cobra Pose, shoulders pulling back, heart is expanding, open. And then let's press back into Child's Pose. So, slow down your breath, right? Especially if you're newer into this yoga business. You might have thought, man, this is really difficult. And it is. I always tell people, I've been doing yoga for like 25 years. I started when I was about 19. And it's still hard. It's still challenging. So don't judge that. Okay, so this next part, I'm going to come into a seat on the ground. And I would ask you to join me here too. If sitting on the ground is really hard for you, you can always grab like a cushion. These are yoga blocks. And sit yourself up nice and tall. Yeah? So, sitting on your blocks or not on your blocks, you're going to first bring your feet together, and you'll bring your feet as close to you as you can. Now, some of us are going to kind of look like this, right? If you're looking like this in this pose, I would say slide yourself up. And don't be shy with your blocks. Don't fall off. But if you're sitting up tall, this is changing the orientation of your pelvis bone here. So if I'm up tall, it's easier to find the forward fold. Okay, so I'm not using blocks today. I'm going to bring the bottoms of my feet together. Let your knees drop open as wide as you can. You want to hang on to your ankles here and then pull into the legs to sit yourself up tall. Now notice I'm pulling not like this with shoulders up, but pulling like I'm opening up my chest and rolling my shoulders back. Now take a breath here. And then with your exhale, imagine you're like the Leaning Tower of Pisa. You're just tipping to one side, right? There's no rolling or rounding at all happening. You want to stay up, seated nice and tall. Inhale, you can back away from that if that feels like too much. And then exhale to fold it again. Inhale, lift up. Exhale, you might go deeper, but you might not. The way that I got my head on the ground, and in this pose I can take my head on the ground, is to do all the slow finding my edge. Every time you exhale, you want to reevaluate whether or not you should be doing yoga. Oh, this is a lot. Maybe I should stop, right? You want to get right to that point, but not to the point that you do stop. You get to the point that you're like, this is a terrible idea. My body, oh, it's rough. It's rough living in this thing. And then you push to that edge, and then you back away, and then you encourage it again. And eventually you'll find the openness in your hips that we're trying to find. Take 2 more breaths wherever you're at. And 1. Okay, that's really good. So we're going to, from here, roll onto our backs. I think I'll turn around so you can see me from a bird's eye view of my head. So, excuse me 1 second. All right, so roll down onto your back. Actually, if you're down already, stay there. If you're not down, I'm going to show you how we want to try to go down. So my knees are bent like so, about a 90-degree bend in the knees, give or take. And what I'll do is I'll reach my hands forward with my palms facing up. I'm going to round into the spine, tucking my chin towards my chest, and I'm going to roll as slowly as I can down to the earth. Again, as slowly as I can, given the fact that we're only together about 45 minutes. When you get all the way to the bottom, simply walk your feet as close to your butt as you can. Bring your feet to parallel the long edges of your mat. You can always look around your hips so that you can see that the outer blades of your feet are parallel to the outer edges of the mat. Give yourself a little windshield wiper of the knees side to side. And when you windshield wipe, you start to feel pulls in the hips, namely in the glutes, in what we call your TFL, the IT band combination on the outsides of the legs. So move the knees, trying to find those feelings. Then when you get to the middle again, you can pause there. You might come up onto your tippy toes to bring your heels a bit closer to your seat and then plant your heels down onto the mat. From there, lift your hips up into the sky. Yeah? We can lower that back down. We want to take a couple of these. So, breathe in. Exhale, lift your hips up into the sky. Keep the belly pulling in really tight. And then lower that down. One more time. Hands can be palms facing down by your feet or by your hips. Inhale. Exhale, lift up. So stay like this for 5 breaths. Or if you can, clasp your fingers underneath your bum. So interlace your fingers like prayer hands when you're a kid. And then maybe walk your elbows and shoulders a bit closer towards one another. Feet maintain that same parallel to the outer edges of the mat. And then just kind of see what you're feeling in your feet. If you're collapsing into the pinky edge of your foot or big toe mound edge of your foot, do what you can to bring the weight evenly displaced between both sides. Take another breath, lift a little higher unless it hurts. Don't push too hard. And then go ahead and release down. Get your hands out from underneath you. Once again, maybe just a little windshield wiper side to side. All right. From there, won't you please lengthen your left leg long to the bottom of your mat. Now, I don't know if you can see my toes, but my toes for the moment are pointing straight up towards the ceiling, and I'm energized through my heel. I'm going to take this right shin, try to grab hold of the shin or the hamstring, but grab hold of your right leg and squeeze it in towards your chest. Nice. Now keep the right knee bent. Put the foot on the ground, but towards the outer edge of your mat. Push into your elbows here and scoot your hips to the right about 3 inches. Then take that right knee back into the chest or into the belly, and then draw it across your body into a twist. Those toes on my extended leg that were dialed up to the ceiling are now dialing off to the side wall, along with my knee that is crossed. Then I'm going to open my right hand in the opposite direction of where my crossed knee is pointing, and I'm looking over at that hand. I try to take a peek at the thumb, nail, the cuticle even, that little moon thing. With your exhale, exhale out the mouth. Sometimes when tension, frustration builds up in the body, we need to exhale out the mouth because it helps us reset at 0. One more time, please. Maybe you flutter your lips on this one. Awesome. Release from that. Bring both your feet onto the ground. Nice. Bring your tailbone to even on the mat. So we're going to just do the opposite leg now. Right leg goes long. Squeeze the left knee in just to get yourself started. Then put that left foot to the outer edge of the mat. Scoot your hips. I'm doing this backwards. Hey now. Scoot your hips to the left about 3 or 4 inches. Then squeeze that left knee into the chest. The right leg stays long. And you're going to dial this knee across your body into the twist. Once you get into the twist, you might want to scoot a little bit towards the direction of your knee. It helps you to bring your shoulders down onto the mat. So my right knee is drawn across into the twist. My right foot stays active through the heel. I reach my hand in the opposite direction of my cross knee, and I breathe in. And then I exhale out. And then I breathe in. And then I exhale out. One more time, breathe in. And then exhale out. Come back to the middle. Bring both your feet onto the mat. Lift your hips up. Bring your tailbone to the ground. Squeeze your knees in. Yeah? So when I squeeze my knees in, what I'm doing is I'm tucking my tailbone a little bit so that my lower back presses upon the ground just a bit. Yeah, you can rock around, make circles on your hips, on your glutes. If you want to, grab onto your ankles or the pinky edges of your feet. This is called Happy Baby. You can grab onto your calves too if the feet are too far away. And if you're hunching way up, to grab that. Back up a little bit, yeah? Because you really want your upper back to expand wide onto the ground. Give yourself a little rock side to side here. And if you would, one more time, take a breath in through your nose. And then... Okay, go ahead and bring your feet back down onto the ground. Lengthen out your right leg long. Lengthen out your left leg long. Nice. Maybe you give your hips a little waggle side to side. Then from there, put your elbows onto the ground with your fingertips facing the ceiling. Palms can face one another. Push into the elbows to lift the upper back. Squeeze the shoulder blades behind you. And then releasing down to keep the heart open in your Shavasana. Palms can face up by your sides. So if you've never done yoga before, this is really why I like it. It's like a built-in 3-minute nap every time you're done working out. So close your eyes, relax the jaw. Allow your entire body to be heavy. See if you can do less. Meaning if you're holding on anywhere in your body, just let that shit go. So I'm going to breathe audibly so you can have something to relax to. But you can relax your breath. So just listen, stay as you are. In the teachings of yoga, there are these sutras, which are little passages that tell us wisdom. And one of the first passages is Yoga Chitti Vritti Nirodha. Yoga Chitta Vritti Nirodha. Which means if you can get your mind to stop churning as fast as it usually does, that is yoga. The cessations of the mind stuff, that is yoga. So just as an encouragement, if you're lying here or if you're like, you know what, screw this nap time, I don't got time for that. I really encourage you. A lot of times we're spending so much time doing the human doing thing, we forget to be a human being. And it's good. We've only been here 2 minutes lying on our back. If you were able to do that, rock on with your bad self. That's a big deal, and it's an exercise just as much as lifting a weight or learning how to balance. Learning how to be still in body and mind is an exercise, and it's an exercise worth doing. So, with that said, if you're still in Shavasana, just start to wiggle the fingers and toes. Maybe make fists and circle out your wrists like we did before. Maybe you can do the same thing with your ankles. I like to rock my head side to side. Then draw your knees up into your belly. Give yourself a squeeze, meaning your hands can wrap around your shins. And I'll tell you a little secret. If you're squeezing your thighs into your belly, the pose is called Apanasana, which means wind-releasing pose. I'll let you figure out what it's meant to do. From there, just roll over onto your right side in a fetal position. So you're in a fetal position on your right side. And the reason that oftentimes yoga teachers tell you to roll right is because the left side of your body is the more peaceful lunar side. If you're rolling to your right, the left side of your body is on top. That means the more lunar side is dominant, so that as you move into the rest of your day, you're doing so more peacefully. With that said, try to use your exhale and smooth, graceful, elegant movements to come up to a seat, whatever that means for you. If you need to sit up on a chair, you can do that. I'm going to stay in what is called Sukhasana, which is my easy seat, but sit anywhere that you're comfortable. We bring our hands to press and then bring the hands to press at the center of the heart. This doesn't need to mean anything except this gesture creates a reverence within the body. That's why it's adapted in so many different religions. It's a reverent gesture. And then we bow the head towards the heart, realizing that we don't want to always be thinking just with our brain, but also with love. Thank yourself for showing up today. I thank you for joining me here. I hope you're staying safe and healthy. And I look forward to putting up more of these. Please leave comments if you have anything that you're looking for in particular. You can let me know, and I can even work one-on-one with people. My regular classes are at the Sonic Yoga website, and so you can sign up just like a regular class there. Any questions, let me know. christempleyoga@gmail.com. christempleyoga@gmail.com. Namaste. We say namaste in yoga. It means same name. It means we are the same. We are of the divine energy, and we are the same. I'll see you soon.